Hey, Father Michael here. I was thinking about a time when a friend and I decided to go hiking in a county park not too far from where I live. And it was a beautiful autumn day. The sky was, very blue, no clouds, sun was shining, and it was cool but not cold, perfect really weather for hiking. And the county park where we decided to go uh, was vast with uh, lots of ponds, a little river that ran through it, and hills and trees, and just a lovely, lovely place. A lake, I believe, was also attached to that somehow. But anyway, we decided that we were going to go hike and we were going to talk because it had been a minute since we had time to really seriously connect. And so there we were. Drove up there and talked about where we were in life. What was going on with us, what was good, what was still a struggle in our lives, what we were doing to stay in our recovery, because we were both in recovery, ways that we'd found to distract ourselves when we felt tempted to maybe go back into our active addiction and all that. Talked about our relationships with our families and friends and significant others, and our spirituality and all of that. And so we're walking and we're hiking, and the park people, whoever the park people are, had designed these trails and marked them all out pretty clearly. So when you came upon a trail leading off, into the woods somewhere, it would tell you kind of the name of the trail and how many miles it was, how many miles long it was. So great. So we're doing that, and we're walking and we're walking and we're talking and talking, of course, because we're both extroverts, and so no shortage of verbiage there. And eventually we realized that really we had not been paying attention to where we were or even what trail we were on. And we've been doing this for a few hours now, and it might be nice to just get back to the car and drive around before heading back home. But we didn't know where we were, and we didn't know exactly how to get back to where we started, where the car was parked. So we listened for other people. When we had started on this trekking around in the woods, there had been a fair number of other campers and hikers. And so, you occasionally hear people talking or laughing, whatever, because sound echoes off the water and all that. And so we stopped to listen to see, are there any other people that we should be walking toward them? And no, there was not a sound. So wherever we were, we'd wandered off somewhere where other people apparently were not hiking. And all of a sudden, the trail ends and we have to go either left or right. Well, there's no sign there either telling us anything. So we went, I think, to the right and walked down that path for quite a few minutes, 15, 20, and still nothing. Nothing looks familiar. There's no water that we've seen before. So now it's like, well, okay, let's double back and go back the other way. Maybe that's the right way. So we did. We retraced our steps back to take that other path. And as the anxiety is starting to increase, we did finally encounter a sign indicating that, we only had like 1.2 miles to go to get back to where we started from. I don't know when I've been so relieved to see marks of human activity in nature. And so, with renewed determination and energy, we picked up the pace and we found our way back to the very beginning. Signs, like that old song from the 70s, the signs are everywhere in our life, in our physical world, cluttering up the scenery, all of that. They're everywhere. Billboards on I-69 and on the interstate, and directional signs and what way you can turn, and when you need to yield or stop or have some caution, some alerts on our phones. I just had to update another Windows update yesterday, which took 2 hours to finally accomplish itself. We even have idiot lights on the dashboard in case we can't keep track of, when we change our oil. My car tells me, bro, it is time. Let us go to Midas and have an oil change. So the signs are everywhere. But the purpose of any sign is not the sign itself, because every sign is there to point to a bigger truth, something that lies beyond the sign itself. Interestingly, in John's Gospel, all of Jesus' healings and miracles are consistently referred to as signs. And the first of those signs that Jesus accomplishes or reveals was at that wedding feast at Cana in Galilee. So the party's going strong, the guests are getting inebriated, they're doing the Mexican hat dance and all of that, and they run out of juice. And so Jesus steps up and turns the large water jars of water into some of the best friggin' wine that anybody's ever tasted, like top shelf stuff here. When my friend and I finally saw that simple wooden sign on our hike through the woods that day, we were, like I said, reinvigorated and relieved. Not so much because of the wooden sign itself, but because we knew the sign told us how to get back to where we had begun our trek, where the car was parked. It was that reality beyond the actual physical sign in the woods. When Jesus turned the water into wine, the point of that story really is not that we should only drink good wine. That's not it. It is a foreshadowing of Jesus giving himself as the best vintage wine in Holy Communion, when he becomes our bread of life and our cup of salvation. Like the steward says in John's Gospel, chapter 2, verse 9, the steward goes running over to the bridegroom and says, bro, what is up with this? Everybody knows you serve the good stuff first, and then when everybody is trashed, then you serve them the crappy stuff. But you, my dude, have completely done the opposite here. The signs in our life tend to point to opposite or contrary things, different from what we are often expecting. Like that hike in the woods that day, there are many times in my life when I have been so preoccupied and wrapped up in what I am saying or trying to accomplish that I am not really paying attention to those signs around me. Other times, I'm so fixated on what I have decided the sign needs to be that I completely miss 100 little signs that are trying to break through because I'm focused on this big billboard on, I-69 South that I need to see from God saying, Michael, you should do this, or Michael, you should not do that. That's when I get lost. An example would be a relationship that I had, a significantly long one. And it was curious because when we met, I really had convinced myself that God was bringing us together. And I didn't even want to look for contrary evidence. I didn't want to even acknowledge the obvious little signs that maybe I should not go down that path. I even had a warning from a mystic friend of mine in Germany who called me. She didn't even know anything about it, but she called me and she said, I had a dream about you last night, and there is someone in the shadows trying to become part of your life. Do not get involved with this person. They are not for you. I thought, she's probably just homophobic and she's got some old school ideas. So, determined to just ignore that and go my own way, I forged ahead, only to realize, 18 years later, that in fact, she had been right from the very beginning, that this person was not the person that I should have ever gotten involved with. I should have paid attention to the signs, When you meet someone and they have no friends at all, when everything that they tell you makes them appear to be a victim of life and circumstances, and everybody's mean and taking advantage and all of that, when it seems to be that they just want someone to be their caregiver, we should pay attention to that. I could have heeded those signs many years ago and saved myself some heartache for sure. But it is what it is. We don't always pay attention to the signs we should. My feeling is that we, each of us, have at least 100 little signs presented to us every single day. And the trick is to notice them and try to listen to what they are saying. That can be challenging as well, because as I know all too well from my own personal life, I'm really good at interpreting signs the way I want to see them. So what do? How do we discern whether it's, our own ego, our own preferences kind of overriding common sense and the real intent of the sign, or, maybe it straight up is God trying to break through and give us a little information? Well, as I've told quite a few spiritual directees over the years, and I need to remind myself of this same thing all the time, so I'm going to share that little piece of advice that I'm struggling to take for myself as well. So here's what I tell them. If you don't know what sign God is trying to give you, or if it is even God at all, go into the silence. Meditate, become still within yourself, and listen for the voice of God. But when that voice of God starts to sound exactly like your own voice, shut up and do something else, because you are on the wrong trail in the woods. Today then, the end of another work week, and here in the frozen tundra of the Midwest, we had a delightful freezing rain winter storm event last night. I can't even tell you how delightful it was driving in the snowstorm in the dark with people riding my butt all the way on the interstate. Nonetheless, we have survived. We've made it to this day. So let's maybe pay attention to the little signs God might be sending us today. The signs from God are always in our highest, best interest, in our highest good. So it might not be a bad idea to try and figure out what God is, in fact, trying to say. Pray with me. Loving, mighty God, we come into your presence on this sunny winter day, grateful for the gift of life, grateful for the many signs you have sent us. Help us today to be more attentive to the signs you send us. Don't let us become superstitious or preoccupied and immobilized by waiting for signs. Instead, help us to live our best life today, to look for the little signs, the smiles from friends and family, the encouraging word or two from someone in our life, and help us to trust that as we listen for your voice and ignore our own preferences, we will, in fact, choose the right trail today. Amen. Have a great day.